I was mopping the dining room when the storm hit like it had a grudge. Then knuckles rapped the glass. Then a voice torn and urgent. Please don't let them find me. I cracked the door, and a man in a ruined suit stumbled in, blood slick at his hairline rainwater, pooling around us as the mop bucket tipped and turned the floor pink. I didn't scream or freeze because life already trained me to move when it gets ugly. I dragged him behind the bar, killed the front lights, slid the bolt, checked his pockets, the way my grandma taught me to be kind, and my mother taught me to be careful, and tucked in his sock. I found a titanium card with a microchip, and no logo, which is how you know it matters. The power flickered. The harbor and hearth hummed like an old boat. And while the storm chewed the street, I patched his cut with bar whiskey, and a clean towel sat on an upside-down crate, and watched his chest hitch and settle, thinking how every woman I know keeps first aid and exit routes like recipes. By morning, the sky went gray and mean the kind that makes you whisper without trying. And when he opened his eyes, I saw recognition hit him first, then shame. And that's when I realized the stranger on my thrift store couch was Oliver Crane. North Spire Dynamics, glass towers, billboards, the man whose company once stamped me with "not brand forward" after I showed up for an interview with my best blazer and my natural hair and a portfolio that smelled like hope. He tried to sit up. I kept my arms crossed. He said, "I didn't mean to bring this to your door," I said. "Then tell me who you're running from." And he gave a laugh that stayed in his throat. "Investors who don't like the word no," he said, a fixer with leather gloves and Victor Hale. The kind of man who smiles at cameras and steals in spreadsheets. Oliver tapped the titanium card like a confession, said it opened a private archive that proves Hale's shell companies, dirty federal contracts, private data sold like candy. And yeah, he thought he could walk into his board tomorrow and play hero, but somebody tipped the wrong person, and two men met him at the curb. I should have let karma clock in, you know what I mean. But my mother's voice beats my anger every time. Your character isn't hostage to anyone else's sins. So I said, if you want to live, you follow my lead. And he nodded like the word no had finally found him. I stepped out back to dump trash and saw the black Suburban idling a block down windows, tinted a man pretending to need 3 minutes of eye contact with his phone. And that was enough. We moved tonight, I told him, because I knew a place that stayed off the city's radar, even when the city pretended it didn't have one. Past the tracks sits what's left of Palmetto skates, my dad's old roller rink lime carpet disco ball, birthday cakes that tasted like plastic forks, and love the roof gone after a storm, and the insurance company deciding roofs are optional. Yeah, that happened. But the office still dry and the padlock never quite catching. We slipped in after midnight, set a lantern on a steel desk, and Oliver pulled an ugly, thin laptop from a hidden pocket, like a magic trick that learned shame booted a system. With an attitude pressed, that titanium card to the reader, and folders bloomed on the screen. Wires, emails, audio names, dollar figures that make your stomach go cold. Then I saw a folder that yanked me back into my own skin. Rivers Janelle. And inside an internal memo that said, "Candidate does not align with client-facing aesthetic, recommend non-advancement. Consider reputational risk with upcoming partnerships." I didn't throw the laptop or scream into the rafters. I just closed my eyes and counted to 5 the way I used to when kids repeated what their fathers had said at dinner. Then I opened them, and Oliver was already staring at the floor, saying, "I didn't write it, but I didn't fight it." And that's the same sin in a better suit, and I said, "We can take the blame tour later. Right now, we need a plan." Rosa Delgado is the lawyer you call when you want the truth more than you want a photo station wagon older than some senators. Voice like sandpaper on a splinter, and she met me at a soul food counter as the sun blinked awake. I slid a drive across the formica. She scrolled, hummed from low in her chest, and said, "Child, this is federal time with headlines on top," then asked if I was ready to be the face of something that doesn't forgive. And I told her, "I've been underestimated my whole life. I'm overdue." The first punch landed fast. North Spire's board put out a statement that politely suggested Oliver was unstable. Then Hale's PR machine painted me as a honey trap with a thumb drive comments filled like a flood that had been waiting behind a dam, and the old heat climbed my throat. "Sit down, hush, do not cause trouble." Until Rosa said, "Then tell your version once clean and unshakable." We set up a live stream in the roller rink office lantern off to the side so the shadows were honest, no makeup, no filter, just me, and a story that didn't ask for permission. I said my name, I said what the storm brought to my door. I said, "I dragged a bleeding man off a wet floor, because I'm a human being, not a headline." Then I read the line from that memo, "Because sunlight is the oldest disinfectant we've got." And I watched the count climb and become something bigger than numbers. People from Charleston and places my passport hasn't seen, some saying, "We believe you," some saying, "We don't," some saying. They did this to me too with a different logo. 3 days later, the boardroom smelled like cologne and anxiety. Hale took the head seat because of course he did, and rolled the meeting like a pastor on a holiday. Then the doors opened, and Oliver walked in, not polished, but alive, set the ugly laptop in front of legal, and said, "Everything is on there." Hale tried to laugh him out of the room, and the doors opened again, and the FBI walked in with the patience of people who have already counted the steps from conference table to cuffs. "Victor Hale, you are under arrest for wire fraud, conspiracy, obstruction," the agent said like a grocery list, and the room went quiet enough to hear the vents change their mind. The press conference after could have been corny, but it wasn't. Oliver took a mic with me beside him, not behind him, said he'd confused market wins with morality, admitted he signed off on ugliness because it kept the stock price happy. Looked at me and said I would not be standing here if Janelle Rivers hadn't chosen to treat a stranger like a human. Cameras clicked like cicadas, and somewhere inside me a knot that had lived there since a store clerk once asked if my hair was a hat finally loosened. 2 weeks later, the city went back to pretending it didn't notice which Charleston does better than anybody, and on a quiet balcony by the river, Oliver set down 2 iced teas and a leather folder with my name stamped on it inside a deed to the Cypress Row, a small boutique hotel 4 blocks from the water I used to pass on my way to double shifts and imagine running while my bank account coughed at the fantasy. And I said, "This is too much." He said, "What you risked for me was too much." This is balance, and I didn't cry or give a speech. I nodded and said, "If I do this, I do it my way." And he smiled for real and said, "That's the only way it works." The next month I learned in days what other people get years to absorb, ADR and RevPAR. How linens tell the truth about standards. Why a good front desk runs on empathy more than scripts. And opening night under my name wasn't a soft launch, more like a hard exhale. A jazz trio warmed the room without asking for attention. The desk hummed like a machine with a heart. A couple from Ohio checked in with road dust on their smiles, and when the lobby slowed, I stood under the staircase and let every version of me who'd been told, "No, stand there with me." The shy one, the angry one, the broke one, and all of us breathed. That should be the Bo-Right lesson, light cue music. But the minute the deed recorded, the internet did what it does. Some people said the hotel was hush money. Others said reparations. Others said optics in a better suit. A columnist wrote that my smile looked like acceptance and flattened me into a tote bag. Another called me an angel and flattened me into a decal, and the truth stays stubborn and messy. I saved a man who once signed off on erasing me. He stood up. When it counted, we both bled in different ways, and something new got built in the clearing. Do I trust gifts from men who used to throw sharp words for sport? I keep one eye open. Do I think accountability can wear generosity if it's constructed right? Some days, yes. Some days I need to walk the hall and check the linen carts and remind myself justice is maintenance, not magic. People ask if I forgive him, and that's like asking if I forgive rain for being wet. Forgiveness is not a performance, it's a practice, and I practice by paying my staff on time, choosing local vendors, comping a room for a couple who just lost their dog, tucking a bowl of peppermint oil behind the front desk because the rink is gone, but I can keep one small piece alive. Now it's your turn. If it were you, would you have opened that door or let the night keep him? Would you take a hotel from a man who once stamped you as the wrong image is generosity, justice, or just good PR? How many times have you watched someone's image decide someone else's worth? Drop your truth in the comments. Argue with me if you need to tell me what you've seen in boardrooms and back kitchens, and tap subscribe if you want more real messy fights that end in something like hope. And tell me where you're watching from so I can picture your weather, your room, and the version of you who needed this tonight.